BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor and take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. Let's get into it. Thanks for checking out today's episode. My interview today is with Peter Richman, and we dive deep into his junior tennis career, becoming the #1 junior in his homeland of Canada, and his inspiring journey to college tennis, where he played at LSU and met another Colorado great, Corey Ross, which led him to Colorado to begin his coaching journey. We talk about all of the high-performance kids that he's been able to help on and off the court, the time that he spent in New York developing an athlete that went on to play Division I college tennis, and now what he's up to today with being co-founder of AdvantageYOU, a racket sports company that's providing tennis all over the metro area of Denver. You're going to be inspired by this episode of not only tennis greatness, but more important, passion and enthusiasm paid forward as a coach. Let's get into it. On today's episode of the BTB Project, today's guest is one of the most prolific coaches in the state of Colorado. As a junior, he had an impressive 6-time junior national championships, which led him to be the #1 ranked junior in his native country of Canada. Venturing beyond national borders, he soared to new heights, reaching career high ranking of number 72 in the world for boys 18 and unders, and representing Canada with great pride. He showcased his skills on the international stage, competing in the Junior Davis Cup. He played 3 junior Grand Slam tournaments, including the Australian Open, the French Open, and the US Open. And then he went head-to-head with the illustrious Jonas Borkman during a Masters Series 1000 event. Transitioning seamlessly from player to coach, he continued to make an indelible impact in the tennis community. His coaching accolades include guiding multiple players to U.S. national titles and propelling one player to a career-high 5 national ranking. Recognized for his expertise and dedication, he has nurtured and developed numerous players who have gone to compete at the college level. He played his illustrious college career at LSU, where he met another Colorado tennis icon, Corey Ross, who became one of his good friends. He is now the co-founder of AdvantageYOU, a racket sports company that prioritizes genuine care and high-quality instruction and is committed to growing racket sports in the state of Colorado. Peter Richman, welcome to the BTB Project.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Coleman Gerhardt. A former athlete and motivational coach, I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
Oftentimes, I get an opportunity to be around some of the best coaches, I believe, in the state of Colorado, but also some of the best coaches in the country. And today's guest is somebody that I've been able to come across and really just enjoy not only our time together on the court, but really his mission and his value structure for how he wants to feed into kids, adults, to help with their tennis game. But nonetheless, I'm just really excited today to have Mr. Peter Richman on the BTB Project. Welcome, man.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to start off how you got to Colorado, because I know that you're entire journey started in another country. And I know that you have some ties to some of the great players here from Colorado, but me being a Colorado native, I'm always curious on how folks end up being here, and not only being here, but being here for quite a period of time. So I'd love for you to walk the listeners through your journey to Colorado.
Well, for sure. Well, first off, Coleman, thanks for having me on. The mission that your BTP project is doing is inspiring. I've already listened to a couple of your podcasts, and I'm excited just to be here to share my story. I'm born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Started playing tennis at a young age with my dad. My dad's been my coach, was my coach my whole life. And I started picking up a tennis racket around 6. Fell in love with the game. Been around the game almost every single day of my life. I spent some time at a tennis club. My dad was a tennis coach, right? So he taught me in the morning, right? So I didn't have childcare. I would come over at the club, do a little childcare there, but most of the times I just would watch my dad teach, because if I didn't know where my dad was, I would start crying when I was a kid.
Right.
So I had to be around him. So I got introduced just watching it, and then my brother, I have a brother named Mark, 5 years older, was playing, and I'd be on the sidelines playing with my mom, and she'd be like, "Hey, he's hitting every ball in." I had a full-size racket under my armpit and swinging through it, and just kind of escalated from there, right? And so that journey brought me into competing at a young age and becoming, one of the top, if not the top player in the country, which ultimately got me to play college tennis at LSU, and where I met my best friend, Corey Ross.
Yes.
So Corey is my connection to Colorado, right? We're great friends. He graduated the year before I did. So I decided to come out and see him over Christmas break. We played some tennis, did a bunch of stuff, had a good weekend. One night, he was playing some Top Dogs. I think it's called Top Dogs over at Meadow Creek at the time.
That's right, yep.
He's like, "Hey, I need you to play. You got these two guys. We got to beat up on Willie Dan and Lou Miller." So I was like, "Sure, I'll come out." And so Corey and I played doubles that night over there. And there was a guy by the name of Andy Zoden happened to be there. And he's like, "Hey, you looking for a job? I have an opening at this place called Green Gables Country Club. Right. It's no longer there."
Right.
But I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I'm graduating. I'm going to have this advertising degree. There's some internship possibilities potentially there. But I was like, I like living here. I had fun. Corey was awesome. His friends were awesome. I could see myself doing that. So I decided to jump on it. And I just took this summer job over at Green Gables. And once I was here, it was just it felt like home.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough place to beat. I have never been to Canada myself. I actually have a good friend of mine, to make our conversation full circle, who was a teammate at Northern Colorado named Austin Nunn, who used to be the player manager for Milos Raonic. And he currently is still living in Montreal and sends pictures all the time of just an unbelievable, city and country. And nonetheless, too, Corey Ross, ironically enough, his dad, Randy Ross, being the tennis icon that he is in Colorado, was my first actual tennis lesson. And being able to be around Corey and also Corey's brother, it's just amazing how the tennis world continues to find a way to be small, right? And with that said, being able to go back and think about your junior career. You said that you were, one of, or if from what I understand, the number one Canadian junior tennis player at the time. What was it like with your, training regimen and being able to get your game to that point? Because nonetheless, I know Milos Raonic. I know there's some other Canadians that are making some waves right now on the tour. I'd love for you to speak to just Canadian tennis and what got you to that point of being the number one junior.
Well, I guess I was very lucky in the fact that my dad was a tennis coach, right? As I said earlier, right? And so not only was my dad a tennis coach, but just an incredible father, right? As I've had time to reflect, my mom and my dad, just everything that they did to sacrifice and support this journey that I wanted to be on, right? Getting up, playing tennis 5 days a week at 6 a.m. before school, right? My mom got up well before us to make sure that I ate well, had breakfast, right? And make sure that I had lunch. Just all the sacrifices that they gave. And my dad coming out there and feeding me balls and being specific about the targets I needed to hit. And I had the motivation and the ambition to be great, so I could take just the hours of one-on-one training. But without that, we didn't have the financial means to have a coach, right, to take me one-on-one at a private rate. So I was lucky. Canadian tennis has really hit the map in the international tennis world as of late.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, we had some tremendous players, right? Like at that time, not a ton made it on the tour. We had Daniel Nestor, who made waves. He beat Edberg, I think, when he was like 18 years old at Davis Cup. And he was obviously number one in the world in doubles and won multiple Grand Slams and Olympics and all that stuff. But outside of him, there was a few others. But I grew up in an era with players like Rob Steckley, who ended up becoming a huge success international coach and helped Lucy Safarova win multiple Grand Slams. He helped her to the finals of the French and maybe the finals of Wimbledon and stuff like that. So I had a lot of great competition. Guys like him who were a couple years older than me to look up to, and he was doing really well, winning national championships in older age groups and playing ITFs. And so I had guys right below me, guys named Peter Polanski, Frank Dancevic, who actually I trained with, got to top 65 in the world ATP. So
Wow.
The competition around me was fierce, and I wanted to be the best. And I knew that I had to train a lot to work on my skills to get there. And I was, like I said, my dad facilitating the knowledge and expertise and the patience to work with me when I didn't always want to hear what he had to say. He would try to articulate it. And then afternoons came around, and that's after school was grind time, right? I would play with guys like Rob and Frank and, Connor Casey, who went to Ohio State, all these players, and we would just grind and play matches. And it was intense, right? Like, we wanted to win. Like it was the finals of any tournament. So it was like every day was kind of that routine of me working in the morning on my specific stuff, in the afternoon putting into match play with these other juniors or great adults. And so I fell in love with that just competition and became almost an obsession, just like to do more than the other guys, right? Like I would get up at 6 a.m. or be at the club at 6:15, and some guy would be there at 6. Like, well, we got to get there earlier then. So it was just, we had this great like relationship with everybody, but everybody wanted to win.
Yeah, and that desire to win, that fighting spirit is, as we know as coaches, is very hard to teach. So you kind of either have that within you or you don't. And I think that speaks a lot to your success and the training that you were doing. And, I remember when I was growing up, my dad also coached me, but he played 1 year at Colorado State University when they still had a men's tennis team, and decided to step down when they tried to make him run a mile 6 months into playing. So nonetheless, his ability to, take it to the highest level was something that was not part of the cards. But nonetheless, that bond with my dad and I, just that time on the court, I'll never forget. And I think that's really special that you were able to share that with your dad as well. But also, too, to connect the dots, I have an older brother. He's 4 years older than me. And he was the athletic one in the family. I mean, he would beat me in every sport: baseball, basketball, soccer, and he would beat me in tennis. And my freshman year of high school, I was trying out for the team that he was playing on at Ponderosa, which is where Kellen D'Amico went, that was also on the podcast. And I actually was able to beat him out and take the last spot on the team, and my brother quit tennis after that. So I would love for you to speak to your older brother, because my older brother definitely gave me some tough love, and I'm actually really forever grateful for it. But how has your bigger brother been for you as a spirit in your life?
My older brother, we're 5 years apart. He has made his own path in athletic career as a bodybuilder, right? He got into bodybuilding a little bit later in his life, started in college and started to hit his peak in his 30s, and he's won national championships. He's been on the cover of Muscle Mag, and
Wow.
he is inspiring just the regimen of what that requires. Like, it's much more than just going to the gym and lifting weights. It's a lifestyle, right? And he's adapted that lifestyle. He's post bodybuilding now, but it's still part of his lifestyle. He still works out. He still eats clean. I mean, that lifestyle of bodybuilding is not for everybody. So his discipline was far superior to what I ever had. But my brother and I were both uber competitive.
Yep.
We wanted to win at everything. Like, I'll just share one quick story. They'll get a laugh out of this, but you get competitive. And when I was growing up, video games started to become a thing, right? We got those, what is it, like the Nintendo or the Sony PlayStation. And
Yes, the Genesis, everything.
Being from Canada, we played NHL games all the time. And there was this loophole in the game where you could score in a wraparound. Like, you knew that if you won a wraparound, there was some sort of glitch. And so we decided we're not going to use this glitch to score. needless to say, I'm down by like a goal and there's like 30 seconds left in the game. Like, well, I'm not losing, so I'm going to take this loophole and score. And of course, you know, my brother gets pissed and like we're yelling. My dad just calmly walks in with like a little hammer and just pounds that PlayStation and breaks it apart.
Wow.
So we got a little bit, but I think my brother inspired me just because the will to win, right? In tennis, he was 5 years. He was a good tennis player. I think he was about 15. I was around 10 or 16. I was around 11 is when I started to close the gap. And he understood that there was something special that may be brewing in my future. And he was, obviously tried to pay it forward and give me advice and stuff and let me kind of build my own path. He still stepped back a little bit from tennis, but he was always been a part of my journey.
Yeah, that's really special to hear. The video games were definitely played in the Gearhart household as well. I mean, we would be playing NBA Jam. My brother got so mad at me as well because I actually won, if you remember Blockbuster, I won a video game competition at Blockbuster, and I won free rentals for a year. And outside of beating my brother in tennis and those competitions of video games, he would never let me hear the end of it. But nonetheless, it's awesome to hear that was part of your story as well. And, you know, it's amazing because going back to the Colorado Tennis Connection, I just remember when I graduated from the University of Northern Colorado, I started to teach full-time. And I believe my first opportunity to teach was at Miramont Lifestyle Fitness up in Fort Collins. And, you know, I kind of did that while I was finishing grad school and then was able to get down to the metro area and had a slew of places that I coached, but finally ended up at a place called Inverness. And I just remember the first time that I heard about you, and it was long before I ended up working at Inverness and ultimately having some opportunities to work with you. But I just kept hearing so many tremendous things about your ability to develop tennis players. And I know that you've shared a lot, Peter, about your development as a player, but I would love for you to tell the listeners about how this player development, this coaching bug, this want to feed into people started after your illustrious playing career.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think all athletes, probably more so in tennis. Tennis is a selfish sport, right? It's all about you, right? Even, I mean, I play college tennis and you have a team, but it's still at the end of the day, you still have to do the things that you need to do to be able to perform, right? Your teammates are there to cheer you on and you're there to cheer them on, but they're also a little bit of your competition, like if you want to play high in your lineup and stuff. So there's always this individual take. When I was in college, I wanted to be the best on my team. I was supportive of my team. There were some teammates who were better than I was and trying to figure out how to match them and stuff. And, you know, we had a great team. We were top 10 in the nation and stuff like that. So when I initially got into coaching, right, I wasn't sure what I was going to do after college. I don't think a lot of people necessarily know what they're going to do, right? But, you know, I was coaching tennis. My dad did that. So I didn't take coaching very seriously in the interim, in the beginning. It was just something I was going to do, and I was going to move, and I was going to have fun and enjoy my life. And then I got this rare opportunity, looking at it back now, a little bit of a rare opportunity where I got a phone call randomly. So I told you I moved to Colorado in 2006, I believe, and just after I graduated. So about June of 2006, I was here. And about a month, maybe a month and a half in, I got this random phone call from this family in New York City. And he's like, hey, we've been recommended that you can coach our son from not my LSU coach, the former LSU coach who just passed away recently, Jerry Simmons. But Jerry recommended me for this position. And so he said, you know, we just went ahead and booked you a ticket. Your ticket's tomorrow on Frontier. We're flying directly to New York. And I was like, I thought it was a joke, right? Like,
wow. Yeah.
So it was like, okay. And like, you should, like, this is like a 4 a.m. call. And I was like, is this a prank? But they called me again. It's like, no, this is real. And they sent the ticket over email. So I went ahead and I went over there, and it was like a week trial job. There was other people already interviewed for the position. So I ended up working with this kid. I ended up taking to Kalamazoo for the under 16 hardcourt nationals, and we connected, and, you know, they offered me the position. I was like, you know, 23 years old at the time, live into New York City. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Right. But again, I still wasn't like bought into this whole coaching thing. Right. It was just like, well, this kid's not as good as I was. But I I changed my tune really quickly, actually. I fell in love with coaching there, when I had this boy and I was trying to help him maximize his potential, and his success became really not my success, but I was really passionate about him having success.
Wow.
And I think I was able to turn off what I ever did in tennis or what I think is successful and understand that everybody's story is different. But my goal was quickly to, how do I maximize his own potential? Right.
Wow.
And I took that really seriously. We built a great connection. They had specific goals. They wanted him to go to an Ivy League school, and that's why they hired a full-time coach as opposed to going to an academy, because they get that one-on-one instruction. So I took that really seriously, and they had the School of Mind of Princeton.
Yeah.
I actually knew the Princeton coach at the time. Glenn Michabata was a good Canadian. He might have won the gold medal with Grant Connell.
Wow.
In the Olympics. He was, no slouch, number one doubles player in the world.
Jeez.
And so I knew him, and he was the Princeton coach, and he's like, we don't really have spots. So, next best thing is to find out another school, a school that's relatively comparable to an Ivy. And we worked hard and got him to Dartmouth, right? And so that journey ended at Dartmouth. And then once that happened, they didn't really have a need for the coach anymore. We left on good terms. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. Now I built a little bit of reputation in New York because I took this kid from 800 in the country to 100 and something in the country, right? And,
wow.
A lot of that is improvement, a lot of that strategy and where the tournaments, like I'm trying to learn the whole system. But I had an opportunity to stay in New York, maybe do this with another family, or work at a tennis academy called Hardscrabble, which is a little bit more outside of Manhattan. But New York was eating me alive. I couldn't be there any longer. Was
it the pace of lifestyle? Was it the people? I mean, I'm just curious.
It was the lack of connection I was able to build there because I was working solely as a single employer with no other people to connect with outside this boy. And so when I was done for the day, it was hard to meet people. And so I met some people and good friends that I would develop there, but New York was a revolving door. People would come in and go. So kind of felt it was my time to go. And Colorado in the back of my mind. Corey's still there. Randy was at Inverness at that time. A couple of his top pros were moving on, and so there was an opportunity. And everything kind of made sense. I met this family, which we'll get into a little bit later. Great family, the Mitchell family. Yep. David Mitchell's the boy, and his father Victor, mom Amy, and fantastic. I met Victor and David on the subway on the way to the U.S. Open to watch one of my teammates, Ken Skupski, who his brother is playing in the finals of Wimbledon tomorrow, Neil Skupski, in doubles.
That's awesome.
But Ken was my doubles partner a little bit in college, a college teammate, and he was playing on the Pro Tour. Now he's playing the main draw of the U.S. Open. So I was wearing this LSU shirt, go out and support him. And so Victor noticed I had the LSU shirt on. He asked me if I knew Corey Ross, because Corey's a legendary tennis player in Colorado, rightfully so. And I was like, yeah, we're like best friends. He's like, oh, that's so cool. Would you want to kind of sit with us? We have these seats at Arthur Ashe or Louis Armstrong, one of those stadiums. I'm like, sure. And he's like, my son's a great player. Would you ever consider hitting with him? He's 10 at the time. And I'm like, you hear that all the time. My 10-year-old's great. And you know what? He wasn't lying. His 10-year-old was great. And so he's like, would you ever consider doing a full-time job again? I was like, yes, but not with him at 10. So I kind of felt like maybe that was in my future. So I decided to move back, work over at Inverness just as a regular tennis instructor and work with adults and everything else, and became a lot more versatile in my coaching because of that. And then worked with this boy, David, and that turned into a full-time job at some point in the next couple of years. And at that point, I just found this passion for helping people. I found maybe a knack in how to do that and how to connect with people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that resonates with me as you talk through that, from what I remember about you and the time that I got to coach with you in some of your clinics at Inverness, is, Peter, you have a incredible ability to not coach at kids, but coach with kids. And what I mean by that, and you shared this a little bit, is that you want to dive into each individual's goals. You want to know what makes them tick. You want to know the fire that's burning inside of them, because you and I both know as coaches that information allows us to know the compass of how we guide them, right? And your ability to come from a selfish sport to becoming unselfish and making it about somebody else is a testament to your character and your coaching style. So can you maybe talk through a little bit about, I know you mentioned the gentleman in New York that you're helping, and you made it about him right off the bat. But I mean, really, where did that come from in your life?
Probably a lot, honestly, a lot from my upbringing, right? I mean, I'm lucky to have two parents who have been great role models, and they're very unselfish to help their own kids. I mean, every parent wants to help their own kids, but, you know, they sacrificed a lot, right, to maybe put their dreams on the back burner and stuff like that to help facilitate our dreams, right? So I think maybe subconsciously I saw that growing up. But, you know, when I started with the boy named David in New York, who I worked over there, I just seeing his success and how it helped him, his overall self-confidence of where he stood in the world was very empowering. And I felt like there were things that he can improve on. And if we hit on those things and we could find a way to articulate those things to him, that he would see success, and finding ways to get that, right? I might say something 600 different ways until he understands it, right? Because it might make sense to you one way, might make sense to me one way. And so I kind of maybe just understood what his game style was like, what his physicality was like. This is where I think you're going to be best. This is where colleges are going to want to see from you. And is there a buy-in on that based on your personality? I think this is where we need to go. And, you know, he trusted me, right? And I think that trust comes from showing that you're devoted to his needs.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, being young, and it wasn't always that way as a young coach, but I felt his success was really, having success for him was really cool. Right. And so I just felt like that was my calling, you know, my own career. There's things that I could have done better or differently. And maybe subconsciously I was like, maybe this is how I can, maybe as far as looking back on regret, this is how I can pay it forward.
Yeah, it's amazing how our biggest potential regrets in life can either bring us down or it can actually ignite us to do incredible things. And it leads me to think of kind of a climactic moment from what I've experienced being a Colorado native, being around competitive tennis, and seeing what you've done with your developmental programs is, listen, like, we're in an era right now in 2023 where if you're a Colorado tennis player and you're looking to take your game to the next level, you're going to Peter Richman's group. So to me, it's just astonishing how you had this one moment in New York, and now it's intensified to not just one person, but hundreds and hundreds of, probably even thousands at this point, of kids that have been impacted by you. So I'd love for you to speak to, you know, you go to Inverness, you have that trial run, you kind of become more well-rounded. Do you remember the moment when the Mitchell family came back to you and said, hey, are you ready to try this full time?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if they came to me or I came to them, right? Because I was working with David, but, you know, like 1 hour, 2 hours a week, and he was developing. And I think the first moment was they asked me if I would travel with him to a tournament. And it was a sectional in Utah, under 12 sectional, right? And went over there, and, you know, I'm scanning the competition, and I'm like, he's going to win this thing. He should win this thing, right? Based off what I saw. And so, you know, I would watch some of his competition, and, you know, I was like, you know, these are some of the players that they were like, these are the kids that we got to watch out for. And I was like giving a few tips, like, all right, this is what you're going to do with this player. This is what you're going to do with this player. And he went out and lost to these kids before, and he beat both of those kids. I think there were 2 kids on the radar. I think he lost a total of 4 games. Like, I think he won 1-1 and 1-1. And so I think after that moment, I was like, I really kind of like being at these tournaments. And they're like, well, we like you being at these tournaments, and can we make this more full scale? And I think, yes, I think we're both at the right time to do this. David was an exceptionally hard worker as well, very talented. He wanted it. This is what he wanted. We were already building a friendship. Our friendship became really close as I started working with him around 12 or so years old, like a younger brother to me. I mean, my responsibilities with that job was to be on the court with him multiple hours a day, off-court training, but I also picked him up from school every day. And that drive from school, because the parents couldn't get him there and back, that drive at school really connected, and we got to know each other. And, you know, the parents trusted me to take him to tournaments, and we just grew this great friendship. You know, if I fast forward years later, he was in my wedding.
Oh, wow.
Right. So
awesome.
he ended up going to West Point. He's a brilliant young man, has a great future ahead of him. But we still, to this day, meet up, have dinner, maybe hit a ball around. And, he asked me, I haven't been able to do it lately, but, I was just glad to have that connection with him. But over that time, I was just like trying to learn everything I could technically, tactically, and how I can get this kid he had great potential, right? How can I maximize this potential? And it's just something that I became really passionate about.
Yeah, I just had a full circle moment in my mind, because when I think back to my wedding, Peter, my first tennis lesson that I had when I talked to you about my coaching journey beginning, that young lady was actually at my wedding with her mom. And outside of forehands and backhands, you and I both know the power of relationship that comes in the responsibility we have with, these kids that we're trying to help, and the parents, and instilling trust in us to get them to the goals that they have. But I think that's really special, that, again, not only instilling that bond initially when you started and finding that bond in multiple players. And it leads me to think of one thing that's almost like an epidemic sometimes in tennis and coaching, is this whole concept of sometimes coaches become very territorial. And again, where I give you a tremendous amount of respect is, not only did we have those times on the court together helping Inverness kids, but all of a sudden, through kind of full circle moments, I'm coaching high school tennis, and there's kids that are in your groups, 9 months out of the year, and then they walk onto a high school tennis court 3 months out of the year. And what's so cool is you and I have had the opportunity to collaborate with what's happening in their development on your end and what's happening during a high school season on my end, and kind of streamlining that to give that kid the best possible experience to accomplish their goals. So I'd love for you to speak to, not only the developmental side of tennis, but how you've seen that kind of cross correlate to high school tennis. And do you feel like you're getting more collaboration with coaches, or do you still see kind of sometimes that hard to manage relationship with coaches, because it can be territorial sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. For me, I guess the product of what I can do with a kid is going to be shown. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's all I can do, right? You're either going to like that product or you're not. I'm not going to try to sell you on what that is, because what I have done for somebody else doesn't mean I'm going to do it for you. Every single person is different. Every connection is different. So I guess I pride myself on not trying to use past success for my present or future endeavors, because to me, like, my past playing success, I probably 70 or 80% of the kids that I work with now probably don't even know where I played college tennis, right? It's because that doesn't affect them in any sort of way. Now, I could probably use that as a tool to help promote myself, but that doesn't make me help them in any sort of way, right? My past success with players doesn't help them any sort of way. It might give them more buy-in what I'm doing, but I trust what I'm doing, and I want that product to show if I can help them, right? And some other coaches go that route, and some other coaches don't, right? It's not for me to say it's right or wrong. There are some coaches that are very collaborative, right? I have great relationships with the coaches in Colorado, and other ones, not, right? Yeah. Not bad relationships, but we just don't, we don't collaborate. I appreciate, like, some of the high schools reaching out and asking for my advice on certain kids or what I need to do. And I think the high school collaboration with other schools as well has been great. I'm not very outwardly spoken about what I've done, is because I know what I've done, right? It's not, right. It's I know that I'm trying my best. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm content with that. But that's led me into the position I am into today, and I'm trying to maybe use my past experience and experience as a player, as a coach, and try to expand on that and try to grow other coaches' abilities if they want that, if I can be any assistance to help them and expand that knowledge and fire and passion to more kids into the state as a whole.
Yeah, and it's well said, because if we're not, as coaches, continuing to learn and develop ourselves, we're not going to be able to feed into other people. And listen, there's a lot of coaches. We all have different styles, and the collaboration piece, I really tip my hat to you, because developmentally, high school tennis is for some, but some of the kids you've worked with, they forego high school tennis and they're training to become some of the top Division I players in the country. But for you to know the avenue and some of the placeholders of people that can help support those kids' goals, I really tip my hat for your ability to have that awareness. And, more importantly, as we're talking, coaching and tennis and things like that, like, let's be real. I mean, you're a husband and a father, and I know that you've had a lot of moving pieces in your life, and a support mechanism that has been by your side is you've had a lot of afternoons, weekends, and holidays where you're on the court grinding, trying to help kids. So I'd love for you to speak. You mentioned a wedding, but I'd love for you to speak to your wife and your family, and what kind of moving parts do you have today in Peter Richman's world?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we talked about it, but yes, I have been a tennis coach at Colorado Athletic Club Inverness since I moved back to Colorado. So since October of 2007, all the way up until the late winter of this year. And through that time, I was working 6 days, 7 days a week, 45 hours probably on average days on the court, working with adults and juniors. A lot of it was hitting lessons. A lot of it's weekends. A lot of it was after school programming. And a lot of that worked for me and worked for my life. And, I met my wife at Colorado Athletic Club Inverness, right? Gotcha. She was a player there. So like that place has a lot of meaning to me, right? And my wife has been very supportive of my ambition and my job and being passionate about coaching and helping kids. And, I bring my work home with me a lot, and I talk about the experiences I have, and she's an outlet to me, and she's been very supportive of that. We have 2 kids. We have a daughter, 7-year-old daughter named Macy, nice, and a 4-year-old son named Maddox. And it became apparent to both of us in our professions that for us to have our kids' the upbringing that we want them, that we're going to have to make some lifestyle changes. Right. And for me to be working 5 days a week after school hours to 6:30, 7 p.m. sometimes, getting home, usually, we want our kids to go to bed at a decent time. So it's like I'm not spending a ton of time with them. And then I'm working Saturdays, 7-8 hours on the court. So I'm really getting 1 day a week with my kids. I want to have the impact on my kids' life the way that my parents had an impact on my life. I want to help them. I want to see them grow. And it was getting harder to watch them. My daughter's 5 and I still haven't made this change, right? And my son's growing up. And so at some point I was like, I gotta do something about this, right? And so that's kind of started my passion for what I'm doing now, right? I have a new business called AdvantageYOU, and I have an incredible business partner in Christy Janos,
yes,
helping facilitate that. And so Christy and I have been friends for many years. She's a huge tennis enthusiast. In her past profession, she's a highly trained chef. Her husband is an incredible chef. They ran a very successful restaurant and service over in downtown Denver called Cook's Fresh Market for many years.
Yes.
And serving up great food. And she used tennis as an outlet and as a passion, and I helped facilitate some of her learning, giving her lessons multiple times a week. We developed a friendship. She turned that passion of playing into coaching. She also wants to give back, and she wanted to learn, right? She was learning a lot from myself. She also worked quite a bit with Jeff Salzenstein, who's fantastic, yep, and he helped her, and then she started doing some stuff with him. And this whole thing just kind of came together where she got her certification. She started to coach, and she started to work at neighborhoods, and we're discussing this opportunity. And I kind of told her about my struggle, about family, work, relationship, and I wasn't really finding that balance the way that I want to, and found this maybe potential opportunity to get into business together and run some HOA neighborhoods. And we developed this business called AdvantageYOU. And initially speaking, it was just Christy and I going to a couple HOA neighborhoods and giving high quality tennis services to both adults and kids.
Yep.
And I thought, we'll just call that good. I'm going to do that. And, I'm going to spend more time with my family. But I still have this huge passion to do more than just that, right? I wanted to be able to give back to all sorts of players of all different ages and all different levels. I still had this huge niche of high performance players that I wasn't quite really willing to just let go of yet, right? And just like, I wasn't over that yet. That's still a passion of mine. So I was able to get a really good group of people around me to help facilitate all these things, right? We're able to we got a contract with the city of Aurora, right? So we're the vendor for the city of Aurora, Parks and Rec. So we're now able to help kids who've never played tennis before and make them love the game, make it fun, learn it the right way. We're giving to adults the same way, right? Getting more people on the courts. We still have this high performance group, and we have this guy who's fantastic. His name is Joey Burkhart. Is on board, and he is a phenomenal coach, an even better person, and he connects with these kids. And so I've had these people in place now where I feel like we can start to run really high level energy tennis classes for all ages and levels, and it's a completely different type of work for me, but it's so rewarding. And it was super nerve-wracking to leave something that was comfortable, and I built a nice niche and a nice home of having my groups, and this has evolved so much more than me, and I'm excited for what the future holds in it.
Yeah, there's a couple really neat things you just said that I want to touch on. One, Christy Janos is fantastic. I was able to help a couple of her ladies groups back in the day at Inverness, and then to your point, as she became a coach, she was helping Kent Denver, and I got to run into her during the girls' season when I was over at Valor Christian. And you said energy, right? You want to bring high energy groups together. And yes, developmental, like that's awesome, but sometimes kids just need energy. And I really resonate with that. And there have been times where, Peter, I've coached lessons or had tryouts to coach at clubs, and I've been criticized for my energy. Oh, well, you're disturbing the court that's next to you, or, it's too loud. Like the proper etiquette of tennis is sometimes, I think, a little bit skewed when it comes to what kids really need to thrive and be excited about tennis. But if we go all the way back in your journey and we think about all of these different touch points that got you to starting AdvantageYOU, is you've been the high level guy. You've done it as a player. You've had an incredible career, and then you go into the high performance piece, but then you go into the just learning how to be an overall coach when you got to Inverness. And then now you're to a point where you're putting all of this together and including the piece to give back to communities like in Aurora. I'm a Colorado native. I actually used to be the director of tennis at the city of Aurora for a period of time. Those are the types of places where there's access to tennis courts and opportunities galore, but to have a high quality product and a high quality coaching staff that brings the energy is what's been missing. And I believe that AdvantageYOU is filling a lot of those gaps. So I'm just super excited for that mission and where you're at in your journey. But I'd love for you to talk about how you made that decision. I know before hopping on the podcast, we talked about some of the choices I had to make. Professionally, I was coaching full time at one point in my life as well, and wife and 3 kids. I made a similar decision to kind of go more into the business world and make coaching the second part of my life, but still do it. And I'm fortunate to have that support from my wife. But when you're in that moment of, looking to make a change and looking to do something different, you had stability, you had a following, you had what you would probably call home at a club, and you decided to make a change. What was it like for you in that moment? And ultimately, was it challenging for you to take the leap of faith?
Well, yeah, I listened to your podcast on you having that same journey, right? Ultimately, the most important thing in my life and everybody's life is family. And I felt like if I don't make a change with what I'm doing, yes, on paper, in the background, everything looked great, right? I love working with high-performance kids. I had that niche. I had kids coming in from all over the place. We're developing. We are getting good results, right? We're having kids, win state championships or competing well nationally or going to college. And that was great. But again, that's not making me sleep better at night, right? I felt like their success is not my success. I really want to emphasize that, because I want kids to I want to make sure that I can have a platform for kids to have successful. I can lead them there, but ultimately it's their journey. Right? They have to do the work, right? So if somebody wins a tournament and, they go around and give me the credit for that, it's not, I've facilitated some of that success for sure, but it's them really doing it, right? They're putting in the work. They're deciding what information to take, what information not to take. It's a collaborative effort, right? And I'm proud of the accomplishments those kids have made, but it wasn't like I'm going home and like, oh, I got the best group. And I was like almost going home and it's like, man, I miss my daughter's, dance class, and I'm going home and I'm so tired, like I don't have enough energy to play with my kids. And I felt like that was just starting to eat me alive. And, support systems matter, right? And my wife is very supportive. It wasn't even a question. She's like, you're working really hard, right? Your body's going to break down and you are doing above and beyond, and you are ambitious and all those things. But at some point, you have to take care of yourself, right? And physically and mentally. And so I felt like I had the support, and I was trying to decide what to do. So once I decided that I was going to do this, I never looked back. It wasn't that hard of a decision. I guess the hardest part of the decision, once I made the decision, was to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't want to feel like I'm letting anyone down.
Right.
But I was able to find a way to facilitate both. And maybe not facilitate both in the way that I was doing before, but actually think both in an enhanced way. Having other great people around me, I think you talk about collaborative efforts. There's lots of great coaches in this state, and I was being able to develop friendships with them and have them buy into this vision and have them become a part of this journey. Coaches like I already mentioned, Joey. Yeah. We have a coach named Jason Eccles. He's fantastic. Yeah. I have another coach named Miles Utel. He's great. He's a younger guy, and we have even some of our college coaches are coming back and they're playing college tennis, and the impact of having their life and wanting to help on this. And so I feel like I have this beautiful group of people who are also facilitating the same goals that Christy and I have. And then of course, Christy just helping me make, empowering me to become a business owner and right. Understanding what that takes and the different challenges there. And, I talked earlier in this podcast about being competitive. That hasn't left, right? I'm still as competitive as ever. It's just in a different way and facilitating it in a different way. So it's been the challenge of leaving wasn't a challenge once I decided to do it. I have not looked back. I'm just looking forward.
Man, well said. It is about that support system, and there obviously, and I knew you were going to say there would be no hesitation, because when you have that support system and you're making the best decision for you, I just give you a lot of credit, Peter, for being the name that you are in Colorado tennis and all of the people that you've impacted, to be able to still lean on family, because you could win all of the, your kids could go out and win all of the Intermountains or national tournaments in the world. But if you're coming home and you don't feel like a champion, what's the point, mm-hmm. right? And with AdvantageYOU, I just think, it's not only just the energy that I'm hearing about in your clinics and seeing with your coaching staff, but I almost feel like you have a rekindled energy to give to a community that is going to take you to, a whole nother area of tennis prowess when it comes to giving back. I mean, when you originally talked to Christy about just doing it at HOAs and you wanted to think bigger, can you maybe talk to the listeners about your big long-term goal with AdvantageYOU?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the initial was we're going to work and we're going to do a fantastic job and we're going to do the best job we possibly can. We isn't just going to go in and teach a couple clinics at HOAs. We're going to go in there and we're going to change the culture of what these kids, because a lot of these HOAs, a lot of the junior team tennis these days are very seasonal players. And I wanted to come in there and I wanted to bring that energy and that passion and change kids' perspectives of, well, we don't want to stop playing tennis. We want to keep going. And I felt like, well, I want to do this on a bigger scale, right? Tennis is it's a luxury sport. It's not cheap. Right. It's physically, it's just demanding financially speaking, right? You got to go to all the tennis clubs and you got to pay the dues and you got to pay the court time. You got to pay the lesson prices. You got to pay the clinic prices. And then if you're competitive, then you got to pay for the flights and the hotels and all this. And so, on the competitive standpoint, but I was looking beyond the competitive standpoint. I was looking for the kids who, tennis to this day for me brings me great joy. The feeling you get of hitting a tennis ball, hitting a clean tennis ball is very similar probably to a golfer. I'm not a golfer, but I can only imagine, right? It gets you hooked, right?
I hear there's an urban legend that when you were 9 years old, all you wanted for your birthday was to go hit tennis balls.
Yes. Yes, that's it. That is a true story. Yes. For my 9th birthday, I asked if I could start playing tennis before school. But I still, the feeling of a tennis ball to me, and to Christy, it just feels so good, right? And a lot of my clients talk about that, right? And you just get the endorphins going and it's just, you want more. And so I was like, I want to get that into other people's lives because tennis, could be an opportunity for people to detach from their own life for a few hours and just go out and have some fun. And maybe tennis become part of their life. Maybe it teaches you some life skills, which I think it certainly does, right? And so I want more people to have that opportunity. And we're doing it at a price point that I think that's affordable, right? That people can afford. And with that affordability isn't not coming down with level of coaching or passion, right? It's not like we're going to be more passionate because people are going to pay a lot more money, right? It's the quality of service, we want it to be the same. So I want that feeling for everybody. And so I'm having that already. One of our places that is really passionate to me because I live in the neighborhood is I live in the Highlands.
Yeah.
So we have North High School. And it's been such a joy for me to be working there. I'm physically doing the job myself at North High School every Saturday morning. And I have a group of kids, 4 to 6 year olds, and another group of 7 to 10 year olds. And it's just something that I've never really done before. And, it's super rewarding to see all the kids sign back up again. And all of them hit the ball and have fun and laughing and build bonds. And I feel like you can teach tennis to kids that young and have it fun and they can learn skills and they listen and pay attention. And if you do it in a way that's empowering them and trusting you, that's not a dictatorship or yelling at kids because they're not listening, it's that these kids can play tennis and they're going to like it and they're going to continue to do so. And if you have enough of those 4 to 6 year olds doing that, and we can do this in more areas, then you have a huge opportunity moving forward. Some of those kids are going to play tennis as a lifetime sport, maybe keep some kids out of trouble. Some of those kids are going to develop athletic skills and maybe use those skills to get in basketball or soccer or whatever. Some of those kids might understand that tennis is a talent and a passion of theirs. And they want to really develop and start playing tournaments. Yeah. Maybe the next Kellen D'Amico comes out of that, And that's, to me, was... when I think about big vision, that was part of it. Have more rackets in more kids' hands, and not only kids, adults, right? A lot of, like at North too, there's a lot of 20-something-year-olds playing on those courts with no instruction, and they're just out there having a blast. Some of them are playing tennis and pickleball at the same time. Like literally have a tennis racket playing pickleball, and the other person has a pickleball racket. And, and it's just like, so coming out there is like, let's give you the fundamentals. And you're like, oh, absolutely. The response has been great. And having that now to go into Aurora and do that stuff. It's just, to me, it's a completely different approach to what I've been doing, but it's so rewarding. And like I said before, it's not that I'm not passionate or about the high performance. It's now I have the ability to do both and have people in place to allow that to facilitate and grow this. And I guess a long-term goal is we want AdvantageYOU to be everywhere in Colorado. We want to blanket the whole state. We want everybody playing tennis and having a positive experience 100% of the time. We don't want to come out there and give you a good experience, hook you in, and then it's going to be a B product. It's going to be an A+ product every time we're on the court. No matter who it is, we're going to inviting, encouraging, inclusive, and we want you guys to leave the court feeling good about yourself. And that's our mission, right? To grow tennis in Colorado, but doing it the right way.
Yeah, and I think that mission is so powerful. And the thing that blew me away, Peter, was when we talked about some of the kids that we've helped that are, possibly going on to college soon or, good high school players, and we know them for, being the kids that we help as coaches. Well, now you have a situation where you have your own business, AdvantageYOU, and you have kind of your tier one or your coaches that are there most of the time. But then you have this kind of tier two bucket of being able to have assistants that can help build this mission. And I have a couple kids in mind that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, but I'd love for you to speak to what it's meant to you to have kids that you've helped on the tennis court come back and say, Coach Peter, I want to help you with AdvantageYOU.
I mean, to me, that meant I did something right. Because it almost like brings a tear in my eye because, second, it's just like I've impacted their life in a positive way. Yeah. And it has nothing to do about hitting tennis balls.
Yep.
Right. And for them to come back and want to help me in my mission really meant a lot to me. I reached out to some kids that I've worked with and it was like, yes, tell me when.
Yep.
Right. And it just took me back. It was like, wow. And not only did they say, yes, we can do this, we're going to help you. They're going above and beyond to do an outstanding job every single time because they know the reputation of AdvantageYOU is on the line. The reputation of me, of my name is on the line, of what I'm bringing to it. But they have also had that their connection with Christy has been phenomenal, and their respect and how everything transpired with her and understanding how we got our partnership together. It's just been really, really cool to see them just excited to help grow the business, do the best job they possibly can. There's just good kids, right? And that connection wasn't built on forehands and backhands.
Right.
That connection was built on water breaks and picking up balls and talking about life and going through tough times and helping them. And of course, helping them hit better forehands and backhands and serves is cool, but helping them feel more confident in decisions they're making in their life is ultimately, you're talking about a life coach, right? You do that. Yeah. There's nothing more rewarding than feeling like you've impacted somebody's life in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest joy in my life is not the success of a tournament or a state championship. It is the thank you cards. It is the calling me for coffee and saying, hey, coach, can I talk to you about something? And I know that you've had a few of those conversations yourself. And it's just absolutely incredible how a sport, a game, can be an impact on someone's life. And to be perfectly frank, tennis probably saved my life. It was a sanctuary for me to get out of a dysfunctional family situation. And I never thought that the skill level would lead me to being able to have a story to tell, to have a skill set to give back. And it makes me lead to a question for you, because I accomplished everything I ever wanted to do as a tennis player, Peter. We talked about it before we hopped on. I started when I was 14. So I didn't have the burnout of some of the folks that you've seen, growing up and playing it ever since you could really pick up a racket, right? And I have had so much joy being able to coach and give back, and it almost tenfolds anything I ever did as a player, right? So knowing what you know now, you got a beautiful family, you got an exciting business venture, you have a great support system around you. Going back to that competitive Peter Richman that was at the top of the world in Canadian tennis as junior, if you had an opportunity to go back and maybe get some words of wisdom or advice to that, 17, 18-year-old Peter Richman, knowing what you know, I'd be curious, what would you say to him?
It's a loaded question. Everything that I've done up to that moment has led me to where I am today. Right. And so in that regard, everything happened the way it was supposed to happen because I'm where I am and I'm happy. Right. I ended up going to college at LSU. I ended up meeting Corey. I ended up moving to Denver. I ended up meeting my wife here, right? I ended up having a family here, right? I mean, it's tough in the one sense that I've built this great family here, but my family, who I'm so close to, are also back in Canada, right? That, it's tough on me sometimes, and, my parents as well, right? We, have a great relationship, and I'm lucky enough that we see each other multiple times a year and we make trips out of it and stuff like that. But that part is difficult. But if I'm looking back from a strictly tennis standpoint, what I guess I wish I would have told myself to believe in myself more, right? Like, you might think, well, you're number one in the country, right? Like, at every level, you're going to have success, and there's always that next level up. And that next level up, I think I could have had some more success if I had more belief in my abilities and who I was, and I had too much respect. I always tell that to a lot of my players. You have to respect your opponents 100% of the time, but you need to respect yourself more. And I respected my opponents at that next stage up, those Andy Roddick players who turned out to be number one in the world, right? I'm not saying I was going to be there, right? But, for me to compete in the juniors, to get from 70 in the world to maybe top 30, which I think I was definitely achievable, I needed that respect myself more. And at that bigger stage, when you're playing those top Americans or top players from Spain and stuff, I just felt that I had a hard time doing that. They were such great players, right? And rightfully so. You're top in your country, you're top in the world. And I also was. And sometimes I think I fell short on my respect issue for myself as a player of where I stood in the hierarchy of things. And I had great ability. And so I guess I would have told myself, you're good. Believe in it.
Yeah, it's, I had the ability to have Jeff Salzenstein on the podcast, and one of our talking points was his U.S. Open match against Michael Chang, and the moment that he won the first set of that match, and there was this very incredible moment where you could see him looking up into the stands at his family. And I put that picture up in the podcast studio here, and we were looking at it together, and I was like, what did that moment mean to you? And he was like, it was awesome for my family, but I knew in that moment that the match was over. And I thought it was interesting because limiting beliefs, we are seed planners, whether we're seed planners to other people as coaches or we're seed planners to ourselves. That seed can go into one or two places. It can go into a seed of positive energy or negative energy, confidence, lack of confidence, right? It takes the same energy to put it into one place or the other. And the reality of the situation is we see more often than not limiting beliefs derailing the hopes and dreams of many. Take tennis out of it, but you see a kid that lacks self-confidence in just life, it's hard to take them out of it. So I appreciate your vulnerability to say, and we see it all the time, it's easy for us to be hard on ourselves for a mistake. But what if we start praising ourselves more? What if we find a way to destroy limiting beliefs? What does it do? Maybe it helps us start a business like AdvantageYOU. Maybe it helps us go into the inner cities of Colorado tennis and give opportunities to where people maybe didn't want to give opportunities before. Maybe it allows us to know that family's first and to be there for your wife and kids. Maybe it's to do something greater than you could ever possibly imagine doing yourself. So with that said, I got one last question for you, Peter, is that, you've seen a lot. You've seen the mountaintops of competitive tennis. You've seen a lot of tough situations that you've had to make recently to get to this next level of your passion. Are there any regrets in your tennis career? Because I know you had some injuries. I know you had the opportunity to probably do the tour if you wanted to, if you stayed healthy and things like that. But I told you I had no regrets in my tennis career. How about you, man?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, I think we hit on this a little bit before we started talking. I think when I look at myself as a tennis player, when I was playing at my best level, I was good. Yeah. Right. Like I had some great success. I mean, in college as well, before college and juniors as well. Right. I know when I was 16 years old, I believe I took a set off Jonas Bjorkman, who I think is in the Tennis Hall of Fame, yes, I believe. Right. Yes. And, had opportunities to win that match. And when the match was over, I was walking up the stairs, and this was a Masters series in Toronto, and Pete Sampras came to me and said, "Great match." I was like, that's pretty cool. Right. Wow. Yeah. Like, cause he was watching and he was waiting for the match to be over because he wanted to get on that court and train because he was going to be playing on that. It was a center court match. He was going to be on it the next day. So I feel like at my best, like that level, I was right there. Jonas Bjorkman got to the semis of Wimbledon and the US Open. And I think he got the semis of the US Open that same year, like another month or so later. Man. And so I don't have regrets, I guess. I wish I could figure it out how to sustain. And that's $1 million question, right? How do you sustain a high level at that level throughout the entire year? And that's when I look at a Novak Djokovic or a Roger Federer and Nadal. I mean, they've done it for 20 years. They don't ever, like, it's like machine-like, right? And, I had a tough time sustaining that level for months at a time. And then when I wasn't sustaining that level and you're not playing as well and you start losing, how do you overcome the losses and not lose your confidence in your identity as a player in there? So I guess I wish when I was younger, and I feel like now as I'm older and now as a coach, I have better advice because I'm more experienced and I've been around longer and I've seen things. So my self-inner belief has improved tremendously since I'm 16 years old in every aspect of my life, right? From public speaking to, being confident enough to start my own business to all those things, right? But at that age, I was trying to figure myself out and where I stood. But again, I think where my coaching comes from is I always coach in a positive manner. Yep. Because of that, because I want to empower people to believe in themselves and they can do this, and impossible is nothing, right? And yes. I also make no bones about it. I'm not going to lead somebody on to hopes and dreams that are too far fetched. We try to stay in the realm, I think, of possibilities, but always in a positive manner. So when I look back at that, I don't think I didn't have that. I just think it was more internal. Right. And if I put it all out on the table and I was able to sustain high level play for a longer period of time, I might have tried playing pro. Like, I had some pro points and, I wouldn't consider myself a pro player by any standpoint, but I would have given it a go in singles and doubles and see where I've gone. But like I said, if I have done that, then I wouldn't have gone to college and I wouldn't have everything else that transpired. So in the long run, the answer is no, I have no regrets. I think it's helped shape me. Yeah. Maybe go back in time and have that learning those skill sets I know now could have helped, but it's also led me to where I am today.
Right. And with that, as we're winding down here, Peter, can you tell the listeners about how we can find you? Obviously in the podcast notes, I'm going to leave some information on AdvantageYOU, but I'd love to have you speak to them on some of the HOAs you're in and where we can find you and how we can support what you're doing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a website. It's called AdvantageYOU.org, YOU. So AdvantageYOU.org. We have an Instagram page as well and a Facebook page called AdvantageYOU Tennis. Spell out tennis, TENNIS. We're at the Knolls. We're over at Homestead, HOAs, Coventry, and Governor's Ranch. Those are the 4 HOAs that we have. And we have the Parks and Rec for Aurora. So we're all over all the Parks and Rec courts, which gives us access to 50-plus courts. Wow. We're also not strictly in tennis. We're doing pickleball as well. So we're trying to grow pickleball. We're at North High School. So that's where we're at currently. We're hoping to grow our business and expand maybe to more HOAs next year. And like I said, the bigger our company gets, one thing that we want to make sure is that we keep those personal relationships. Yes. Right? That's what's going to help us grow and sustain, is everybody's going to get to know everybody. We want to know the kids and their families and all over the place. But that's where we can find us. We are a new company. We started business essentially in May. Yeah, beginning of May, and we're optimistic about where this can go, and we're off to a great start, and couldn't be more proud of what we've been able to accomplish, and have the support such as yourself and others around there reaching out, and we're here to empower people and make tennis a positive experience.
And I know too, as the winter rolls around, I know through our conversations, you're looking to build relationships to where some indoor tennis is possible with AdvantageYOU. So I certainly look forward to hearing what's on the front there. But Peter, man, I can't thank you enough for coming in and doing this podcast face to face. I think that all the years that we've come across each other, I've always felt mutual respect. And as you mentioned earlier, the most fulfilling thing is watching these kids become the best version of themselves on and off the court. And for me to have any mutual collaboration with you to make that happen has been a tremendous blessing in my life. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today on the BTB project.
Coleman, I really appreciate you taking the time and having me as a guest. You're growing your podcast, and I want all the listeners out there, listen to other podcasts. They're fantastic. All these former players and everything, their stories are inspiring, and we all have our own issues in life, and how we handle them and all the choices that we make to move us forward is what gets us there. And I'm having a great time listening to the other people beyond here.
Awesome. Peter, I appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thank you.
Such an awesome conversation with Peter, and just a ton of nuggets that we can take away from not only his path as a tennis player, but more importantly, his path as a coach and as a person. I highly suggest you as the listener to check out AdvantageYOU. It is an exciting up-and-coming tennis offering here in the state of Colorado that caters to juniors and adults all over the state. And it's each and every one of those opportunities where it's high quality instruction, high quality experience, and high quality enthusiasm and fun taking place at each one of those sessions. I will definitely leave information on AdvantageYOU in the podcast description, but check them out all over the state. And again, impossible is nothing. If this episode impacted you, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the podcast. Give it a share to one of your friends. Each and every one of us are having situations in our lives that we're looking to overcome, persevere, or go after something. And it's important for us to do this together in community. I appreciate you checking out the episode, and take care.
You're told I'll be your heart temptation.